Your one click on the subscribe button makes a huge difference. Thank you for your kind support.
Final Destination Bloodlines introduces some of the most fascinating additions to the franchise's mythology by presenting not one, but two potential methods to break death cycle. Unlike previous installments where characters scrambled for solutions with limited information, Bloodlines offers a more systematic exploration of how someone might actually defeat death's design. Through the mysterious figure of William Bloodworth, J.B., and Iris's decades of research, the film establishes two distinct strategies: killing someone to take their remaining lifespan or experiencing true death and resurrection. When Stephanie, Charlie, Darlene, and Bobby discover that death is targeting them because they're descendants of people who should have died at the Skyview Tower in 1968, they desperately seek answers. Their search leads them to Hope River Hospital and William Bloodworth, a maintenance worker with a profound connection to their situation. In one of the film's most revealing scenes, Bloodworth explains that he was a child at the Skyview Tower the night of Iris's premonition, brought there by his mother, who was performing. He wasn't supposed to be there, but became the last person in Iris's vision, making him uniquely qualified to understand death's rules. Bloodworth bluntly informs them, there are only two ways: by killing or by dying. This simple statement establishes the film's central philosophical dilemma. The first method, killing someone to claim their remaining years, offers a morally compromised escape. If you take a life, you get the time that person had left, Bloodworth explains, introducing a transactional view of mortality where one person's lifespan can be transferred to another. This concept isn't entirely new to the franchise. Final Destination 2 hinted at the idea that new life could disrupt death's design. But Bloodlines makes the exchange more explicit and morally challenging. The killing method suggests a zero-sum game, where survival requires taking another life, a desperate solution that might save you physically while corrupting you morally. The second method Bloodworth describes offers a less ethically problematic but physically riskier alternative. To truly break the cycle, you have to die. He elaborates by sharing the story of Kimberly Corman from an earlier incident, referencing events from Final Destination 2. When Kimberly's turn came, she died, flatlined, but her doctor managed to bring her back, and that broke the chain. This second method, dying and being resuscitated, represents a more redemptive approach. Rather than taking someone else's life, you temporarily surrender your own, crossing the threshold between life and death before being pulled back. It's a symbolic rebirth that apparently satisfies death's design while allowing the person to continue living. When Stephanie and the others ask why Iris never tried this method, Bloodworth delivers an ominous warning. It's risky, and if you fuck with death and lose, things could get very messy. This statement acknowledges the fundamental danger, true death with no return, while also hinting at potentially worse fates for those who attempt to cheat death and fail. The implication is that a failed attempt might lead to an even more gruesome demise than what was originally planned. After learning about these methods, the characters face a critical decision. Eric immediately fixates on the second option, seeing it as their best chance. Bottom line, flatlining's your best option. What do you have to lose? His question is darkly ironic, given that the answer is everything if the resuscitation fails. Nevertheless, Eric and Bobby decide to attempt this method, heading to the hospital to induce an allergic reaction in Bobby and then revive him. Their plan goes catastrophically wrong. Initially, Bobby's peanut allergy fails to trigger, suggesting he may have outgrown it. As they scramble for an alternative in the hospital, they enter an MRI room where a series of accidents leads to Eric's death when the machine activates and pulls his piercings through his body. Bobby is then killed by a vending machine spring that impales his head. This disastrous outcome reinforces Bloodworth's warning about the dangers of attempting to cheat death. Not only did both characters die, but their deaths were particularly gruesome. Later in the film, we see what appears to be a successful implementation of the second method. When Stephanie drowns after the RV crashes, Charlie performs CPR and revives her. They believe this has broken Death's chain, and for a brief time, it seems to work. They survive for a week without incident. But during Charlie's graduation ceremony, they learn from a doctor that Stephanie was never actually dead, just unconscious. This critical distinction reveals why the method failed. To break death's design, one must experience true clinical death, flatline, not merely unconsciousness. This realization comes moments before the film's final disaster, when a train derails and logs crush both Stephanie and Charlie. The timing is cruelly perfect, just as they understand why they're still in danger, death claims them. This reinforces the franchise's persistent message that death cannot be permanently cheated, while also establishing that the methods themselves are valid. They simply weren't properly executed. What makes Bloodline's approach to cheating death particularly interesting is how it frames these methods within moral and philosophical contexts. The killing method represents an ethically compromised escape that might save your life at the cost of your humanity. The characters briefly consider this option when Bobby suggests they could take someone else's life, but they quickly reject it. Even in desperate circumstances, they aren't willing to cross that moral line. The death and resurrection method, meanwhile, carries religious and mythological overtones. The concept of dying and returning to life has parallels in many spiritual traditions, suggesting a symbolic rebirth or cleansing. By dying and returning, the person satisfies death's claim while gaining a second chance, a process that's both physically traumatic and spiritually transformative. Bloodworth's character adds another layer to our understanding of these methods. He appears resigned to his fate, telling the group, "I'm tired. I'm done with all that. And now I'm sick just like Iris." His acceptance suggests that even knowledge of how to cheat death doesn't guarantee you'll want to use it indefinitely. After decades of helping others navigate death's design, Bloodworth has reached a point where he's ready to accept his mortality, a stark contrast to Iris, who fought until the end. This distinction between Bloodworth and Iris highlights different philosophical approaches to mortality. Iris represents resistance, fighting against fate with every tool available, while Bloodworth embodies acceptance, recognizing that death will eventually claim everyone. His parting advice, "Life is precious. Enjoy every single second," suggests that how we live might be more important than how long we survive. The film also explores the idea that attempting to cheat death comes with escalating consequences. When characters try and fail to implement the resuscitation method, their deaths are particularly violent and grotesque. This pattern suggests that death doesn't appreciate being outmaneuvered and responds with increasing brutality to those who try to escape its design. Interestingly, the film never shows us a successful implementation of either method. We hear about Kimberly Corman's success secondhand from Bloodworth, but within the events of Bloodlines, every attempt to cheat death ultimately fails. This creates a sense of fatalism consistent with the franchise's overall tone. Death might be temporarily delayed, but never truly defeated. This doesn't mean the methods themselves are invalid, just that executing them correctly is extraordinarily difficult. The distinction between unconsciousness and clinical death that trips up Stephanie and Charlie is precisely the kind of technical detail that makes cheating death so challenging. Death's design accounts for these nuances, closing potential loopholes before characters can exploit them. What does this tell us about the Final Destination universe? First, it suggests that death operates according to consistent, almost contract-like rules. There are specific conditions under which death's claim can be satisfied without permanent loss of life, but these conditions must be met exactly. Second, it indicates that death isn't necessarily malicious. It's simply enforcing natural order. If that order can be satisfied through technical means, true death followed by resurrection, death will honor that solution. The concept of taking someone else's remaining years raises fascinating questions about determinism in the Final Destination universe. If someone has a specific amount of time left, that implies their death date is already fixed. This deterministic view aligns with the franchise's central premise that death has a design, a predetermined order and timing for everyone's demise. By killing someone, you're not just taking their life, but literally claiming time that was allocated to them. This creates a potentially endless cycle of death and survival. If person A kills person B to take their remaining years, does that mean person A will die exactly when person B was supposed to? Or does it create a new timeline? The film doesn't fully explore these implications, but the very concept challenges our understanding of how time, fate, and mortality interact in this universe. Ultimately, Final Destination Bloodlines expands the franchise's mythology by giving us the clearest explanation yet of how death's design might be circumvented. The two methods, killing to take someone's remaining years or dying and being resuscitated, offer contrasting approaches that test both the character's survival instincts and their moral boundaries. While neither method proves successful within the film itself, they establish that death operates according to consistent rules that can, theoretically, be manipulated. The film's ending, with both Stephanie and Charlie dying despite their best efforts, reinforces the franchise's persistent message that death cannot be indefinitely cheated. Yet by establishing these methods and showing how close the characters came to succeeding, Bloodlines creates a universe where hope exists alongside inevitability, where characters might temporarily outmaneuver death, even if they can't escape it forever.